thewellnesscouch.com, streaming wellness into your lives.
You're listening to A Quirky Journey, the healthy family podcast with your hosts Jo Whitten and Leah Follett. Welcome to A Quirky Journey. Join us as we share our family's journeys to good health. You'll find plenty of inspiration, tips and recipe ideas, as well as stories from everyday people who've struggled and overcome health problems and diet challenges in their own families. I'm Jo Whitten, author of the blog and book Quirky Cooking, and today we have part 2 with Nicole Azzopardi. Hi, Nicole.
Hi, Jo. Thanks for having me on again.
Well, we enjoyed it so much last time we had to have you back.
Great. Me too.
We being the royal we, because Leah's not here. But that's okay. Me and the dog, we're both here.
Good. My dog's here too.
Oh. Well, if any of you missed the one before, you should go back and listen to it. But if you want to just listen to this one, that's fine. Nicole is the author of the Alchemy Cookbook, and she also has the website Mama Care. And last week we talked about her family's journey and her book and her recipes.
Siri not available.
Oh, sorry.
Connect to the...
Siri, be quiet. Sorry, that was Siri interrupting. Does that sometimes. And we talked about, learning to cope and learning to reduce stress and things like that. And we thought we might flow on this podcast with some ways to handle life, I guess, when on GAPS or on any difficult diet, or when your children are sick or you've got allergies and intolerances and issues happening, you can have those days where everyone's having meltdowns, everything's difficult, nothing's working. And it seems to escalate because you feed off each other with your stress, and we've all been there.
Absolutely.
And you have some great tips for stopping that escalation and changing the mood.
Yeah, changing the course of the day. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't always work, but I found these things to be really helpful. And basically I came up with, Stevie and I and Josephine came up with the Better Day Plan.
Better Day Plan. I like that. Okay, tell us about the Better Day Plan.
Yeah, well, this came about after... most parents, full stop, most parents have dealt with tantrums, screaming, crying.
I think that's all parents.
This is pretty much what you get when you've got kids. But, with our daughter, particularly while she was pre-GAPS, she was having meltdowns all day and all night. So it had become very, very wearing for me, and I was very frightened for her, basically. So I could feel when she was having one of these particularly bad days, I could feel my wheels of worry beginning to turn, and I could I would flash back and go back pre-GAPS into just a child that could not be consoled no matter what I did. And then I'd flash forward into the future and see a child at school having meltdowns at school and not being able to cope. And, it just wasn't setting the scene for a very easy day. So on this one particular day, we were all just feeling pretty destroyed on the floor. I was exhausted. It had been about the 5th meltdown of the morning. And I felt like crying myself. She was crying, sitting on my lap, and I said, "Look, Stevie, basically, I know you're only 3, but you've got to know that we've all got a choice.
Yeah.
In this, you can have a good day, you can have a bad day. And how can we now think about how to have a better day?" And she was like, "What?" "Mom, I'm 3. So anyway, we just started thinking about, what would we like to do from here?
Yeah.
And we started thinking about all the things that she loves to do. So we said, all right, let's make a list, and I'll write it down. So number 1, what's first on our list for having a better day? And she said, jump on the tramp. I said, okay, let's jump on the tramp. Number 2, what else can we do to have a better day? And we said, let's play a game of chasey. Number 3, let's have a bath. Even though it's the middle of the day, let's just have a bath all
That sounds
together.
good to me.
Yeah, exactly. I never had thought of that before, but it was good. Number 4 was jump into bed and listen to The Little Mermaid. That was her favorite story at the time. And 5 was make a chocolate cake. She was up for that.
Always helps.
Always good. And always turn a day into something much better.
Yep.
And 6 was have a shiatsu. My partner and I met studying shiatsu, which is, it's a form of, it's like a massage treatment, but it follows meridians that you'd find in Chinese medicine. So, yeah, to unpack the logic behind this list, this is kind of where it's not just about, we made a list and we listened to each other, which is infinitely great.
Yeah.
But there's more to it. So we know with Stevie from doing some genetic sequencing that she doesn't have her vitamin D gene functioning and her vitamin B gene is not functioning. Her detox pathways are really compromised. So that just means that when on GAPS, she's basically, she's doing a lot of healing. And there are going to be times also, she's a child, there are going to be times when, I don't know if you've noticed this with yourself, sometimes the healing process can just make you feel cranky. Yeah.
Especially when you're detoxing.
Yeah. You can get headaches. You can, you can feel angry. You can feel all sorts of things.
Yeah.
And, so she was having that kind of day. But basically, with the trampolining, to go back, I wanted to be with her rather than send her away. It's really kind of tempting to just go, okay, you need some time out.
Yeah.
Take a few minutes in your room or whatever. But that just never worked for her.
No.
That just kind of heightens her anxiety.
Yeah.
So, and she tells me I need a hug to calm down.
Yeah,
So
I do
listen.
too.
Yeah. This kind of time out thing.
Yeah.
It actually does work with Josephine.
Some kids do work with that.
Yeah. But it doesn't work for her.
Yeah.
She needs a hug and she needs me to sort of just really listen and teach her how to breathe in and out. And so one amazing thing about the trampoline, we've got one of those old school in-ground numbers. It's really bouncy. And trampolining just gets you breathing.
It sure does.
And that is awesome for so many functions in the body. Apparently it helps, jumping up and down helps your lymphatics. And it also helps with constipation. Like if you've got stuff to move and you're breathing, inhaling, exhaling, and, you're exercising, that can really help you go to the toilet. And often with Stevie, a lot of that behavioural stuff and the moods and things were connected to her needing regular bowel movements. And initially we struggled a lot with, she would go 5 days without a poo. Yeah. So
that's interesting.
It can really build up. And I could watch her mood just dissipate when she'd go to the toilet. And she'd be back to the Stevie we know. But as days would go by and not pass a movement, she'd just get crankier and crankier and crankier. Yeah. So the trampoline, just let's get on it quick,
When my son, who was the main one we did GAPS for, when he was little, he would get constipated from dairy. And we noticed he's a very easygoing, he doesn't lose his temper very much at all, but he would get very withdrawn and sad when he was constipated. Can I just ask you here what you did for constipation besides trampolining? That's a good one.
Yeah,
because I have had that question a lot because I never dealt with that myself. Now that he's older, he didn't really have that problem.
Which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we did a lot for constipation. That was one of those, God, I've never been so happy to see poo in my life. When you got a constipated child, God, it's just a celebration.
Yeah, it's sad when they can't go.
Yeah, but what we did initially was a number of things, but some of the things, trampolining, exercise, liquids. Not, you don't need to drown in liquid, but we would do the juicing first thing in the morning. So tiny bit of fresh pressed carrot juice with some cultured cream was helpful for Stevie.
Wow.
First thing in the morning. You need to basically get your bile, going. And ways that I've read, please do your research and speak to your medical professionals if you're doing any of this. I'm a mum, I'm not a medical professional. Ways that I would do it is just a little bit of lemon juice first thing in the morning, tiny amount when you can tolerate it. Things like we have now fermented Tulsi.
What's that?
It's just like, the Tulsi plant, holy basil.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, like that's one of my favorites at the moment.
And what does that do?
Well, a lot of herbs will just start, in a bit of water, like make a herbal tea or something, will just help kickstart your digestive system.
Wow.
And there's a number of herbs that will start to help you generate bile. So just check them out. But yeah, lemon juice is one. There's, a little bit of ginger is really, ginger in just a couple of slices in water.
Yeah.
It's something that we have done. We sometimes, now that we're off GAPS, but for later stages of people who are on GAPS, I would cut up pineapple with the core, sit it in some water and have that first thing in the morning. And the water itself is just beautiful for the digestion. Have a few pieces if you want. It's yummy, it's absolutely yummy. A lot of herbal teas for us in the morning, and it took time for Stevie to be able to tolerate the salicylates in all those herbs, but they happened. And so now, like a favourite, we do chamomile and hibiscus.
Yeah.
Lots of nice things first thing in the morning, and that can really tie in with a lot of the thought around Chinese medicine too. They don't go for a lot of cold foods first thing in the morning. So, the smoothie, the green smoothie and whatever, it's good. But, they would say have a little bit of ginger tea first.
Yeah. And that's funny. I've always found that myself, that I want something warm first.
Yeah. And you'll see in my book there's a recipe for, I call it a cocktail. It's just a little bit of apple cider vinegar, in some water with a few bubbles and a bit of honey. That's a beautiful way to start the day.
Yeah.
And then so having some sort of stimulatory drink helped Stevie. A little bit of, mix it with a bit of fat, can help lubricate the bowels and get things moving. We found digestive enzymes were fantastic for her. And we would just open up a capsule. And again, we started with the head of a pin just before she ate something with every meal. And we upped it a little bit over time. But that was helping her to open her bowels as well. And now, we only needed digestive enzymes for a year. She's off them and absolutely fine. We were told by a doctor that she would need to be, her spleen her pancreas was not functioning fully, and we were told she would need to be on digestive enzymes for the rest of her life.
Wow.
But that's absolutely not the case now. And for those it's so exciting, and it's so possible.
Yeah.
We won't, no one is going to know the outcomes until they have the experience. But I never dreamed that our severely allergic child, who was intolerant to so many foods, who had these autistic traits, would heal in such a dramatic way, to the point where she needs no EpiPens, no autistic traits, no known food intolerances. Her healing has been radical and dramatic. And, we were talking, you mentioned Mary Kelly Mackenzie from Good Mood Food. There's also, there's Natalie Russell from Real Food Revival.
Okay.
There are so many mothers, and you yourself and your family experience. It's important to consider the quantitative evidence when we're looking at all of this. But what we are, these mums all just telling our stories, we're the qualitative evidence, and that has a place. It has a very important place too.
Yeah. So the constipation cleared up. How long did it sort of take for you to clear up?
Look, it took a couple of months. So yeah, we did the juicing, we did enzymes. The probiotic was important. We did a synthetic probiotic to start with, very slowly, but that also helped her to move her bowels. Exercise. Then once we could start getting onto sauerkraut and the actual water, that helped a lot as well.
Yeah.
And then when she could actually eat the veggies, that start to help her move her bowels as well. The next thing we did was we did a lot of tummy rubs.
Yep.
Doing the clockwise tummy movements. Really starting to just help move that.
All through.
Yeah, just move it down. We did yoga poses, so I would take her legs, her ankles, and roll them over her head and do peekaboos and those sorts of things, just playing.
Yeah.
Do twists. There are certain yoga moves where you can do torso twists that are fantastic for constipation. There's a whole body of work in yoga for digestion and constipation as well. And I found Epsom Salt baths, warm baths, helped her to go as well.
Yep.
There's some reflexology moves that you can do. If you just YouTube those, you'll be able to see what pressure points that you can press. Just really gentle, basic things. We did castor oil packs. I can't explain it, but she would go after that.
Wow.
We did some essential oils. I can't remember what they were, and you've got to be careful with those because, especially on young kids, dilute them, make sure you know which ones to use.
We do talk about that in the podcast with Samantha Bullock, the naturopath who's an oils practitioner.
Great.
So,
yeah, well, I'll have to tune in and refresh myself there. And basically, I found doing all those things, she started to go, and then she started to, then it was once every 2 days, and it was once every day, and now she's just, an everyday girl.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, and it's just not an issue anymore, and it didn't take that long in the scheme of things. Once you've been dealing with all of that for years, it just didn't take long. We never did enemas. That's the other point.
Oh, okay, that's interesting because we didn't either.
Yeah, okay. I think it's a bit of a, Australians just can't get their head around enema.
You have to be pretty bad to go, all right, I'll try it.
We weren't that bad. But yeah, there are some kids, we're talking 9 days, 10 days. It's, it's severe, and they're severely unwell. And adults, if it were my issue, I'd probably be going for an enema. But no, I just didn't think it was going to work in such little children.
Yeah.
But, this is all without an enema.
That's good.
And all very successful.
But definitely jump on the trampoline. Okay, so that was point one. Sorry, we got on a rabbit trail there, guys, because I wanted to know about that because I do get questions about it and I haven't had the experience with it. So I thought, oh, good, there's someone who knows.
Yes, I do know.
Okay, so what was your second point for making it a better day?
Yeah, well, the second one was playing chasey. So, very light exercise can be a great way to detox.
Yeah.
Moving your body, reaching and stretching is another way to move out toxins. My little girls love chasey. I pretend I'm Mr. McGregor.
Aww.
She's Peter Rabbit. She's just stolen the radishes from my veggie patch. It makes her laugh. I catch her. I tickle her. it's better than any medicine.
That's so cute.
Yeah. I mean, that we're dealing with a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old, so everyone's going to find their own thing for themselves and their family.
Even with older kids, I know my kids say, "Oh, can't we just go for a walk? Let's go for a bike ride." It's they want to do things together. Let's go to the lake and go for a walk.
Yeah.
Whatever
And initially
it is,
you don't
outside.
have that much energy when you start GAPS, and
That's true.
it's important not to go too hard.
Yeah.
Your body is healing, so don't feel like you need to go out there and go hard. But light stretching and a bit of a tickle, a bit of a run, in the garden is fantastic.
Can I also mention, because the main reason we started GAPS was the anxiety and depression associated with my son's OCD. And one of the biggest things that we were told to do was get him outside, get him doing, fun things and enjoying. And even when he was in the depths of depression, he still wanted to go to futsal. He plays futsal, and he would cheer up at futsal, and he would go hard. He loved it. It really helped him, and he would feel so good afterwards.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I think the exercise is really important for their well-being as well as, their health.
Yeah, just taking your mind off something too, isn't it? Just a shift of focus. And, as you say that, it reminds me of, just because we live by the beach, just going to the beach is such a reset. And
do you know what? That is just like the best thing. I can't wait, because we're off to Perth for a month and we're staying in a beach house. I can't wait.
Wonderful,
Just walking outside and walking on the beach in the morning has got to be the best thing.
Totally. And I think that's also contributed to why it's worked so well for Stevie, why GAPS worked so well, because we've lived by the ocean, we're swimming all the time.
Yeah.
There's something magic about the sea, the salt,
the waves,
even at the sea air is full of nutrients. It's full of minerals. It's full of all of these things. It probably has its own microbiome.
Interesting.
The third one that I've got on this list was Epsom salts, and this stuff's high in magnesium. And many people with gut disturbances are in short supply of this vital mineral. Epsom salts are a great way to get a dose of it. It's gentle, it's relaxing, it's fun, it's a great way to help your body to detox. And, it's just something you can do with your kids. If you've got little kids, it's good for me too.
Yeah. And you said in your last podcast about the foot baths. Did you use Epsom salts, or was that something else?
Well, the foot baths that I talked about in the last podcast was much more about the magnesium flakes. But I think any of these salts, if you can make them more concentrated in the form of a foot bath, I reckon you'd be better off. Because you think about we've got this big deep bath. You put a cup of that in. You kind of, it all gets a bit lost. But I just found there's something about just a little bit of water, good amount of salt, bang, straight through the soles of the feet, and it just made a difference.
So you said about half a cup of salts to like a bucket of water?
We started off slowly with Stevie, so we started with a quarter of a cup, and then we built up a bit, and now we're on to half a cup. For me, if James and I decide we're going to have a foot bath after the girls go to bed, I do a full cup for myself and for him. And I alternate. So I've got Dead Sea salt, I do magnesium flakes, I've got Epsom salts. Some people put an apple cider vinegar, do a little bit of apple cider vinegar in their bath. Because we live by the beach, I collect seaweed. I do a few. Seaweed's high in minerals.
That's amazing. That's a great idea.
It's a good idea.
You can buy the beautiful ones with the lavender flowers in it, or
you can do that.
You can get the essential oils.
You can do it. Like I got all mine off Blant's, and I retail them too. I sell them in beautiful, beautiful
where do you sell them? Through your
just off
website?
my website.
Mama Care.
mamacare.com.
Yeah, Blant's is great. I think we should mention that because people might not know about it.
Well, I spent 2 years going up to the supermarket, spending a bomb on Epsom salts, trundling back home.
Thankfully, someone put me on to Blant's straight away, so that was good.
Yeah, well, I'd heard about it, but I kind of got put off by the delivery charge because it was going to cost us a lot to get it to us. But look, by the time you've done 2 years, it's just worth it.
It is.
I would suggest it, and you can get the magnesium flakes, you can get the Dead Sea salt, you can get all these lovely things, and it's just much cheaper that way.
So it's BLANTS.
Yes.
.com or
Plants. I think so. .com.
Yeah, just Google
and
it.
you just order online, and it is a ripper.
Okay.
The fourth one was jump into bed because God,
sounds good to me.
You're a mum, please just let me go to bed and wake me up in November.
Yeah.
But kids like it too. If you're gonna get in there with them, Stevie. At the time, she was never a day sleeper, but every now and then I can interest her in a bit of an audio story about the Little Mermaid. And the point here is that frequent rest is so healing. A daytime nap is fantastically restorative, but just lying horizontally can help rest the body. It's a great chance to gather her up and Josephine too, and imagine life at the bottom of the ocean together. Number 5 was make a cake.
Yeah.
So who would have thought, make a cake as part of your healing protocol.
Oh,
but
I've always said baking's therapeutic.
Jo Whitten has proven that to be correct, haven't you?
Oh, always. Whenever I get overwhelmed, stressed, got a to-do list going out the door, I drop everything and go bake. And I know that's bad in some ways because I'm a procrastinator, but but it seems to, just relax me, and I'm excited because it's creative and I love that creative side of, life.
Yeah.
And then you can come back fresh and do what you got to do. Yeah,
it nourishes on so many levels.
It does.
Me too. And the same for my children. My children are no different.
Yeah.
And and for Stevie, it was just her most favourite thing in the world to do. It turns the day into a celebration instead of, something to just get through. Our cakes, like yours, are always gluten, grain, refined sugar free. They're sweet, but they're not overly sweet. And more than anything, it's a really grounding thing to do.
It is.
She uses her hands, she cracks the egg, she measures, Josephine stirs, there's a bit of argy-bargy that goes on, but
up on chairs.
Yeah, exactly, falling back
fun.
off chairs. But it gives us great focus. Like, you're saying with your son and his game, we love sitting together and then eating our creation on pretty plates. So that it just feels like, okay, today is not such a bad day.
Yeah, especially we find we like to get a blanket and go sit outside and eat.
Totally.
And whenever, especially when my kids were little, when we were having a bad day, I'd go, right, picnic, get a blanket, whatever we could dig up out of the fridge cupboards, whatever, or if we baked something. And suddenly and we'd all lay around, on the blanket staring at the clouds and eating bits and pieces, and I would read to them and...
Nice. Yeah, totally. And in far north Queensland, you'd be getting your nice levels of vitamin D from the sun.
Yeah.
And that, as you know, it can make the world of difference to people's moods.
Yes.
And us too. We do lots of picnics and, we take platters down to their cubby house and they trundle off with these little suitcases of food.
Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah, and it's just, again, shifting focus and, having a reset is somehow really important.
I think also we do get a lot of rain in the summer months here. So
I used to do.
Yeah, so we would put the blanket over the table and make a tent or, over chairs and all sit under there and all that fun stuff. Inside picnics.
Fun stuff. Fun stuff is very, very important to healing. The point 6 was have a shiatsu, and like I said, James and I met studying this Japanese acupressure, and it was a wonderful eye-opener to the world of energy medicine and how our energetic pathways can really influence the way we feel, how we sleep, how we digest our food, and so much more. And the children, just on a really basic level, the children just love the feeling of it. and we've always used this kind of pressure, gentle pressure, to calm them down, help them get off to sleep. And on this occasion, because it was the middle of the day, I just put on one of the girls' favourite TV shows and gave shiatsu while they watched. But, your picnic blanket is perfect.
Yeah.
Any of that sort of thing.
And if you're not a shiatsu expert, you could always do foot massages or something,
Foot
couldn't
massage or any kind of massage. Just patting down the body, gentle patting down the body. But
head massages. That's
head massage.
Nice.
Josephine likes me to scratch her back, so I think sometimes even just moving energy that way can really just assist in helping someone to calm down and feel like you've they're being attended to.
Yeah. So can you share with us some of your ideas for, I know like these things especially help the children. What's some of your tips for helping mum when she's feeling a bit over everything and stressed? Because I know that you're a really big proponent of looking after yourself.
Caring for the carer. Yeah. Absolutely. Not that I was good at that during during the time when my kids were, when especially Stevie really needed me. But over the time I have realised and I have learned.
I think it's something you learn with age too.
Yeah, absolutely. And when life really throws stuff at you, like I was challenged beyond anything I'd ever experienced before. So, with that comes, various learnings about yourself. And at the time when Stevie was really, really unwell, it was all hands on deck. James even quit his job, and we just stayed home and we looked after Stevie. Wow. Josephine was a little baby, and I
that's amazing that you got that support. That's so good.
Look, and that's the other thing, Dr. Natasha Campbell McBride talks about it too. Like, the more people that can come around the person that needs that kind of help, the better their outcome will be.
Yes.
And I was just so fortunate that James, her dad, he really, really supported everything that we did.
So good.
And sometimes the dad takes a while to convince, and you've got to, you've got to kind of find a way for them as well.
Yeah.
You've got to bring that whole family along. Yeah. But we were fortunate because James had the background in shiatsu. He understood that the digestive system was very much a part of many other systems in the body, according to Chinese medicine. Chinese medicine is very much all about the gut.
Okay.
So look, he did so much to help me. We learned how to cook. Now, the cookbook is basically, because they're not good on the memory stuff, the men sometimes. And, they just don't, a lot of them just don't function that way, thinking 50 things at once. So with the cookbook, I know that I can open it, I can say, could you make the panna cottas, let's say, out of the book, and I get help, because as you would know, do you have much help in your life?
I do. Like, my mum lives across the road, and she's always been great. Like, she would, if I needed, because I travel with my work, and so she would take over making the broths and making, like, early in gaps, I had to go away when I'd been on, we were on intro for, let's see. No, that's right. We started on full gaps and worked back to intro. So we were on full gaps, and we'd only been on there for about 2 weeks. And so I had to go away to Melbourne. And so Mum was making the broth. She was making pumpkin seed pastry with apples for the kids, and she was
wonderful,
researching it all, figuring it out, reading the GAPS book. So that was a lot of, and her and Dad didn't really understand it. They sort of felt it was a little bit unnecessary, but she was willing to support me, which was a really big help. And now they, I think, have seen the benefits.
Oh, absolutely. And isn't that just such a factor when it comes to your own stress levels?
Oh, yeah.
If your family start to get it, and they see the changes in your children, or whoever it is that needs the changing, needs the support, wow, God, when that starts coming through for you as the caregiver, it just takes the stress levels down another notch. There's a
Yeah.
little bit more space for you.
You can go out if you need to. You can go away if you need
You
to.
can go out, you can go away, you can leave the caring up
Mm.
to somebody else, which
And Mum's
was,
always been great like that.
oh, isn't that
Yeah.
wonderful? But, traditionally that's how things
Should
were
be.
done.
Yeah.
That's how things were done. And,
Mm.
look, it is exhausting,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Oh,
Trying
yeah.
to raise the child without the village.
Yes. Yeah.
Let's
Well,
face it.
we definitely have the village, thankfully. We have, I mean, I felt a bit alone at first because people didn't quite understand. My
Mm,
husband was away for the first 3 weeks of intro, but that might have been a good thing because he wasn't really on board at first.
mm.
He was okay with me doing it. He said, "Do what you think you have to do," but he didn't want a part of it,
Yeah,
But
sure,
now
sure.
he's a lot more supportive of it.
And it does take
It
time.
does. It takes time for people to, like, people who have been raised on a traditional diet and don't really see food as medicine.
Mm.
It's difficult for them to understand what you're doing.
Or they've never had the health challenges.
No, they've
You know
never
what?
had
I wouldn't be
allergies in the
thinking about
family.
it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be thinking about it at all
And he was
if,
just kind of like, well, why can't you
faced
just
it.
eat whole foods? Then you'll be well. I'm like, well, we have been eating whole
Tried
foods and
that.
we're not well.
Yeah, we have tried.
Yeah.
And yeah, absolutely. But that is just wonderful. If you've got a bit
Mm.
of a team, if you've got some family on board, or you've got your husband, or your sister, your best
Friends,
friend,
yeah.
anyone,
Yeah. You just need people that you can talk it through with and come and help out now and then. And one
absolutely.
thing I do tell people also is if all else fails, pay a teenager to come and chop vegetables for you because
Totally.
most of your time is spent chopping vegetables.
Totally. And we've got Bridie. She's actually known as the Nutritionist Nanny now.
Oh, I have
But
one like that too.
she is the most phenomenal girl
Yeah.
who started off, she was a nutrition student who
Uh-huh.
had an interest in, she was nannying to get herself through her
Yeah.
course.
Mm-hmm.
But, I just thought, oh my God, this is amazing. Thank you, universe, for bringing this girl into our lives. And so she wanted to learn. I wanted her to learn.
Yeah.
And so she's ended up doing a lot of cooking for us
Yeah.
from our book. So you can just hand it over,
Mm.
and all this prep time
Yeah.
can be done by someone else. There is a certain mastery, I think, in the mum,
Yeah.
in you, your love, your energy, your care, coming through the food that is just absolutely healing.
Mm-hmm.
But
Get help if you need it.
those who also love your children
Yeah.
can also participate in their
Yeah.
care in that very, very positive way.
Yeah.
Positive way, which was, people did that. They would, mum, grandma, aunties were
Yeah.
all around to help.
That's
And
how it should be.
that's how it should be. For
Mm-hmm.
whatever reason, most of us are not living like that now.
No.
And I wasn't.
Yeah.
I'd moved an hour and a half from my mum. My mum was sick. She had cancer. No one could help us. James's parents were 3.5 hours away.
Yeah.
I was in a new town. I was completely on my own. But, if there'd been a book or something where I could say, could you please just help me with this? I think there would have been plenty of people who'd say, yeah, I could do that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
So, when it comes to caring for the carer, once you get space, give yourself an easier time, because most people are going, oh, I'm not doing enough. But you're doing plenty, and you're doing your best, and it just has to be good enough.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that I started to do with these foot baths for myself, now I get to go out. James and I have got date nights planned, and we're going to my mum's on Saturday, and we'll get to go out. So now we're at a point where our children are not anxious for us if I'm out of their sight.
Yeah.
And it does just tend to, with healing, it just tended to open up for us. But there are times when you can't go and they need you through the night. And, we couldn't get a babysitter initially when Stevie was having meltdowns all over the place.
Yeah.
So you're just on, and I just had to find space within myself to to say, this is okay, you know, I love this child, and no matter what, I'll be there for you. And for Josephine too. And there's something about accepting where you're at, and where you're at as a family that is caring, and a way of caring for yourself. And then, like, mindfulness exercises was another thing that I would do. Like, a friend of mine, he does music, and they do this kind of, it's like they go through, you know, just an awareness, body awareness thing, you know, be aware of your toes, be aware of your feet, be aware of it. So I would do something like that at night. It'd be about 10 minutes out of my time, but it was just something for me. You know, I'd have a coffee in the morning, make sure I have a, you know, just something that made me feel like I could cope.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then just laughing. If you get a chance to have a few laughs, do you find, like, when you're
definitely.
worried, you forget? I haven't done much laughing lately.
Yeah.
So, you know, some of my favourite things to do are just, you end up watching a bit of telly because that's your, you know, you're near your kids and it's your only relaxation. But Louis C.K. ended up being my big laugh, and that's just, you know, everyone's going to be a bit different there.
Yeah.
The other thing, I had to just really balance out my self-talk. And I found, because I've got this journalism background and I was interviewing people, and I had to really just make sure that I wasn't talking about Stevie in front of Stevie.
Yeah.
You know, and because I was talking a lot about, you know, she's got these allergies and it's, you know, it's like this, and she's having meltdowns all day and whatever, it was just so important to, number one, not speak about it in front of her. And number two, when I was speaking around her, and just at any time, start to correct and balance out what I was aware of about her. Like, you know, just point out all of the wonderful things about her.
Yeah.
You know, and really just make that a focus. And when you're worried about someone, I think you can become a bit too focused about their healing, which was my case. And just, you know, just really start to talk about, you know, this is a beautiful child. You know, look at this great moment we're having together, and it's so nice cuddling up to you at night, and your hair smells like ocean, and you know, you're beautiful, I love you. So that was sort of all the things that I've been working on. These days I can, you know, I get to go and have a massage, and
nice.
Yeah, I'm having the osteopathy. Initially it was, okay, we've got enough money for the kids to go, and then James could go, and now, you know, finally mum goes. Yeah, mum gets to go. And you sort of think, well, you know, everyone else has to come first, but it's actually, it would have been great if I'd been going at the same time.
Well, that's good. Well, thank you for that. We should probably finish up. And if anyone would love to share their ideas of how they have a better day, how they relax, how they calm down the craziness in their home, and also just ways that you find that you can help yourself to relax, please share them on Facebook. We would love to put together a blog post about it, and maybe I can share that with everyone, because I think, have you got a blog post about, you've got one on your site about the having a better day, don't you?
Yeah, it's called the Better Day Plan, but I'd love to hear everybody else's ideas.
Yeah, because I think there's so many ways, and every family is going to be different, but it's just good to get ideas from each other.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for that, Nicole, and we've really enjoyed hearing you, and I hope everyone's enjoyed listening to A Quirky Journey this week, and that you found it helpful. You can post your questions on our Facebook pages if you like. Nicole's Facebook page is Mama Care, and is that all one word? MUMMACARE. And then we've also got our websites. Mine's Quirky Cooking, and Nicole's is Mama Care. So pop over to our sites and leave us a comment, and I'd love it if you subscribe to A Quirky Journey on iTunes. That would be great, and pass it on to your friends, and we'll be back next week with another great story and interview. See you next week. Bye.
This has been a production of TheWellnessCouch.com. Check us out on Facebook and join in the conversation on Facebook.com/TheWellnessCouch. Subscribe to each show on iTunes and check us out on Twitter. The Wellness Couch, streaming wellness into your lives. Whilst the Wellness Couch presenter endeavor to provide accurate and helpful information to their listeners, these podcasts cannot take into account individual circumstances and are not intended to be a substitute for health and medical advice from a qualified health professional. You should always seek the advice of a qualified health professional before acting on any of the information provided by any of the Wellness Couch podcasts.